Hey, it's July 18th, 2026, and I'm almost done getting the, what's it called, a prologue for the book. I'm almost done uh, taking videos of myself, in which case I have put all the information about the reason why I started writing the diary. So I'm, I have a few more points to make. I'm going to make that hopefully this weekend, and then I want to start going over the diary. Uh, I'm getting to pointing out what started the diary. So that's pretty much going to be the day to day about what happened. So I guess for the past, 10 videos or so or more, I've been kind of like laying the foundation for the the 2007 child abuse hotline phone call. I need to go over the fact that they never called back then. They never did a investigation. They never called me back. The call went in with all the information from all three of us and not a phone call back. I've established that. And then the fact that nothing has been done simultaneously throughout the years, not just from that one phone call, but through all the police interactions, calling the police, asking for their help, trying to, from being harassed, stalked, bullied, uh, getting the things that were happening to myself, to Josh. So all the times I've reached out for help, not one time have I ever gotten help back. But the most important thing is I'm setting the stage from all those conversations um, that's going to start the diary. Now that's a hard thing for me to go through um, because I don't really visit the diary about what happened day to day, what was going on, the dual life that she was living with working at Bucks, telling them one thing and then going behind their back and doing something else, and the lies that were just going on and on and on. So I'm maintaining a good relationship with my son throughout this whole entire time. As the same time she's sabotaging Josh, she's sabotaging me, she's sabotaging everything that we have worked for, everything we talked about, anything that was said, anything that was promised, nothing came about. So that's the hardest part. Is the hardest part for me was learning that I was dealing with somebody who couldn't tell the truth. And that was very difficult because it's very difficult to raise a child when you have a parent who says one thing, does another thing, and then lies about doing whatever is done. It was very, very, very difficult. So I took a lot of solace. Well, it became solace, but when I started writing the journal about what the day to day things were going on because of the lunacy that was going on day to day, I was writing it for Josh's protection first, and then for Bucks County and for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's to be used, for Josh's his life. But then it started to be something more of a this is a day to day thing that was going on. So it's difficult to track somebody who constantly changes their mind or lies on a daily basis. So it was very helpful for me to write it down so that I have it and then I can always look back on it. And this happened time after time. This happened every time we went to court or CCES or any kind of thing that happened with school. Like I was always taking in everything that always was always happening with doctors or whatnot. I'd write notes and then I'd come back and if she had a problem with me with this, that, and the other thing, I'd visit and say, well, listen, you said this on this day and I said this on this day and whatnot. But it was a consistent lies. It was like a machine gun of lies. Like every day was something different. It was very, very, really tough. So it was very therapeutic to write what was going on. And I was not a writer at the time. When I first started this, I had a Windows 95 XP, I believe. No, not 95, 98 or no, 2000. I had a HP uh, laptop, there was a Word document, and that Word document was a date, time this was happening, date, time this was happening, date, time this was happening. So I learned that from the doctor's notes, from the other notes. So forensically going into all of those things, I started to keep a very uh, good record of what was going on day to day. Because I know that she was playing games with me, and she played games with Josh, and she played games with the doctors, and she played games with the teachers, and she played games with the principal. She played game with his medical stuff, his TBI, the CHOP people, the therapists that were supposed to be involved, the wraparound services, his pediatrician. She lied to everybody, but because she knows that they're going to listen and not do their due diligence and check her, uh, they learn to believe the parents. So I was the bookkeeper, if you will, or the journalist. I was journaling the things that were being done and said, and what was going on. So I know that she was lying to Bucks County as well. That's why I called her Trojan Horse in one of those videos that came out of my records. And each one of those little videos that were put together by AI are not total um, accountability of everything. Those just pick up. AI does all the work. I just take all this information and I plug it into it, and it spits out those little videos that were seen. So they're not conclusive, and they're not all informative. So when I wrote that, when if you look through one of those videos and they talk about the Trojan horse, I believe that Bucks County didn't know what they were dealing with when they first covered her. Is what I'm saying is that I believe that she got her job there under false pretenses and lied about certain things to cover herself, to protect herself, and cause Josh harm, and to lie to everybody that was there. Those things are provable. I can prove those things. That's not what's in question. My thing is that I believe that she came in there with false pretenses, conned herself into their good graces, and then thinking that the stories that she was telling them were true. So they believed her without the law people doing their due diligence, is what they're required to do as police officers, as judges, or no, or DAs or detectives or whatnot. They're supposed to investigate, but they don't. They didn't. They just gave her carte blanche, whatever she wanted. So when she started finding out that she could say and do anything, I was dealing with then, and it's quoted many, many times in my journal, that she was a bull in a china shop. And Bucks didn't know that she was causing so much commotion, that Josh was suffering so much between physically and emotionally and parentally and in her care. She would tell them one story, and she told me a different story. And those little things I've been able to capture through my time of writing. And so it's important to know that I believe in my heart that Bucks County is meant to do good. But when they got a hold of my journal, I believe it was in 2017 or 2018, from a reporter who got a hold of my diary, and then from Bucks County Courier Times, and then so did the same editor, and then somebody else got a hold of my journal because they asked for it, the proof that I had that she was. They probably took that, gave it to the judges or the DA, and said, okay, well, listen, he's got his case here, but we cannot renege on our commitment to this woman. So they eventually got into bed with her and have protected her ever since. Now, at this point, at the beginning point of my diary, I don't. I believe because she was working there for the first 4 years until I found out 2007 that he almost died. Made the phone call. She had to ramp up her game. She had to smear me more so that she looks good, because Bucks County doesn't know who I am, but they have gone off of what she has said, and they never did do due diligence. But the point is that I'm going to start wrapping up um, what got me into the diary, what the journal has to say about what was going on. So I'm going to take you step by step, or what days were written, and they start to come alive about how the mania and the mental illness that she suffers, you can see it and really play out. I know I ask a lot of questions, and I know that I just, my focus has always been Josh. And even through all these times, even writing, I never did it with Josh around. It was always about Josh when I was with him. And it was, when my days off or when I didn't have him, I would catch up on my writing, but those things never took the place of my time with Josh. My time with Josh was the most important thing in the world to me. As you can take a look at all of the videos that I've posted, what was it, 250 of them? If you look at my son and you see the pictures and the videos that I've taken of him, you see a really good boy. And there's no doubt in my mind about that. And you can really tell that he's genuine, he's relaxed, he's happy, he's, a really, really super good kid. And I loved every minute of parenting him. Um, Unfortunately, I've been in and out of his life because of her. I would say about 7 or 8 times, and he's 25 years old, and that's a lot. Um, the amount of times we went to court was a lot. Um, Times we went to doctor's appointments was a lot. The problems in school was a lot. The problems with the doctors are a lot. The problems with, I mean, there's so much surrounding this woman that it's impossible to say that I do take responsibility for the things I've done wrong. And what I did is try to believe somebody who's a pathological liar, and that's not my fault. But I was always there for her. I knew I was raising two people, because she wasn't focused on Josh. She was focused on me, and I was focused on Josh. And then she would focus on me, I wanted her to focus on Josh because my son's not a business, and she didn't know how to run a business, and she didn't know how to do the medication, and she didn't know how to do the doctors, and she didn't know how to listen to them, and she didn't want to listen to the teachers, and she didn't want to listen to me. She didn't want to listen to the judges. She didn't want to listen to the pediatricians or the therapists or anybody. So it's very, I can't say it's me 100%. However, my quality of life has always been good. So this is going to depict this is going to go to the mental, her day-to-day struggle. I believe she took his medication. I believe she took his medication. She used it her benefit so she can go to court and to do her transcripts and do her work on a normal basis. It's hard to keep so many different lies, and that's the most important thing. This is my whole. I wouldn't have to make one more video if I could sit in a room with my son for 5 minutes and tell him what I know. But that's not happening. And being in and out of his life 10 plus times throughout his life, I can't blame him for not wanting to talk to me, because every time I try to talk to him and I have to go through his mom first, she always perverts everything I've said to him. So I'm dealing with somebody who can never tell the truth, and it never mattered. The truth and honesty. I can't believe I was kicked out of being a father in his life just because she has a vendetta, and because she wanted to harm our son. I've never had a police report about me where there was a criminal charges against something I did to her, where I had to pull Josh out of my life. None of those things ever happened. I was a good dad. I'm a Christian man. I believe in raising a kid because the kid's a gift to me. But for somebody who's fought to be into his life and has been kicked out so many times, I'm sorry I didn't give up, But I'm not sorry I didn't give up, because I'm not sorry for giving up. That's what a father does. Even though she's crazy in the head and she has turned him against me, probably permanently, which is totally fine, because he's going to have to learn on his own that all the lies that she told, um, eventually they all come out. That's what the Bible says. Luke 12, what's done in secret will be shouted from the rooftop. So this is about me. This is going to be one of the last few videos, and then I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. Now I'm going to start telling you everything that I know that I put in writing just to be able to protect my son. That was my goal. When Bucks County didn't call back, when they didn't do their due diligence, when they didn't call me back, when they didn't investigate, when all they did was got my phone call and said, Mystery Dell, and then Goliath, and then Josh's name, and then social security number, then address, and then social security number, phone number, work phone number, home phone number. After giving all that information, their response was supposed to be call within 24 hours. That never happened. So I was being told, no, we don't care about your son. We only care about her. That's when I wrote. And that's when I went forensically through everything. And that's when I started to start the diary. And I'm up to 600 pages. So I'm not sure 600 something pages. And then if I include all of the sub headings too, like the CCS meetings, the therapy meetings, the things that contradict. I'm catching her contradicting everything that she has said, and it doesn't matter. Lies that were told in front of court officers when she said, I would never keep an 18-year-old from his father, and I show them in writing that this is her in writing saying, don't come to his bus stop. I show this email to the court officer and say, this is her telling me not to come around my son, because here's the paper. And then she turns to the officer and says, I would never keep a teenage boy from his father. But you've been doing it since he was 2. So you say these things, but what your actions are differently. And it kind of goes through that. It floored me when she told the court people, when trying to do his last custody at like 17 years old, because he told me he wanted to be in my life. So I went to court to try to fight for him, and then she gets involved and she stirs him up and then just blows it all up. And that's what she does. She's a blower upper, and I have all of those things caught on tape. Or caught, well, some on tape, but mostly in writing. So I'm going to explore those things. And then, so I'm pretty much done setting the stage of the reason why I had to start writing. Because when child services neglect your kid, and you're not allowed to go and take the law into your own hands, you got to do the best next thing. And that's right. To right. And I've captured it. And I'm ready to tell the story. Because there's no way that I have to not see my son. But more importantly, the effort it took to start to write, from a guy who doesn't like to write. At the time I didn't like to write. I did terrible in school. I got kicked out of typing class. I did one book report of Anne Frank for 4 years in high school. I barely passed when I was done high school. I had to get tutored by the end of the year just so I can get the credit so I can pass. So how does a guy who barely passed high school be able to excel at so many different things? My son has been my motivation to go further. So to expand myself, to put myself in situations to be able to learn how to do them, and then I learned to do them well. So, but except I'm not a writer, and I do have all this information for a book, but don't know how to put it in book form because that's not my gift. So I have all this information. So some things I just can't do, and to go through, I don't want to read the whole diary or the whole journal, um, in one sitting. So I might have to break it up a little bit, maybe by year or whatnot, and then after I start to revisit this on camera, um, because it's never really been let out. No one's ever really read it. I haven't even read it, and I wrote it. And there's a lot of times I don't even want to see it, and it's a very very hurtful because it was hurtful for Josh, and that was the reason why I wrote it. But it was also to let him know how much I love him. I mean, just the fact of letting. I'll use Tyler as an example again in Atlanta, where he come knocking on my hotel room door saying I would have, and bawling his eyes out and just crying, and she said I would have killed her. I would have killed her and put my 12 years in and had my son come visit me in jail. And then when I got out, I would have had time with my son and I would have had a relationship. So to protect him, I would have done whatever I could have done. And you didn't. You should have done something more. And you could have done. And Tyler's just, that's every man's, that was every man's hearing that when I was kicked out of Pennsylvania. I'm in Atlanta and I'm hearing this is every single man's like thing. Like you're stepping up to be a father, but you're getting kicked out of doing your job, by all means necessary. It's unheard of, and I feel bad for Josh that you know it could have went. It was meant to go real smooth when we broke up. That's the way it was all gone. It was nice and smooth breakup. You have half time, I have half time, and then we work around each other's schedule. I'm making 100 grand a year. She's making less than that, and I'm making money, and I'm doing my business. And let's move forward. Let's just do this. And then the 26th came, and then everything changed, and she took him away. She took me for child support. She took my business away. She took my money from the basement and didn't even give it back to me so I can continue to live, and then bust my balls about saying, where's your money? You don't have a place to live. Well, you didn't give me back my money. But I mean, I get crucified because I didn't have a place to stay right away as soon as she kicked me out. But then she also didn't give me the $50,000 to get a place to live. But then wants to tell me I'm wrong for not having a place for Josh to be because she doesn't give me any money, and I'm getting in trouble by her for not having a place. And then she busted my stones about the place I lived and all this other stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, you owe me 50,000. If you gave me the 50,000, I'd have a place to live for my son. I can continue my business, and then we can continue to go forward. But it was like every time a step was taken, a knock at the knees happened, a knock at the leg, and I was thrown down, and I get back up. But this is the kind of lunacy that was going in her head. Um, she never thought about what her actions were and then wondering why I can't be Superman and be able to miraculously say, oh, well, here's $50,000. I can just go get a new place to live. And that's kind of like how it was in the beginning. I mean, the beginning of the breakup, I was, there was no reason for me to move out. I could have stayed there and lived there in a 3-bedroom townhouse in Yardley, and I could have rented a room or down in the basement. I could have taken the whole basement that I finished myself and with John Stewart, and I could have lived there and paid rent, and we could have been one big, nobody would know family. But that's not what she wanted, because she wanted chaos. And the problem is that not everybody who's involved ever got in the same room together, because she's kept everybody separate. And when you keep everybody separate, not everybody's together. If she took all the people she had spoken to for the past 20 something years in Bucks County, and all the people she worked with, tell them stories, if all the people got together and heard her story, she probably couldn't tell everybody at the same time the story, because she's got so many different versions. And that's what my book does. My book will say this, then. This is what happened then. Or I'll go back to visit stuff when things pop up again. So taking it day by day, it was a one line by one line, and then I started to be able to open up, and my writing style changed. It went from one liners to paragraphs, from paragraphs to pages. It was really therapeutic to have written these things down. What I'm not looking forward to is reading them. So um, I believe I've covered everything I wanted to touch on, other than the fact I did say about the Bucks County never coming through ever. Um, the CP, the CPI, the child hotline call, the calls to the police asking for help from the harassment and the bullying and the threats from her, those never were dealt with. Anytime we went to court, everything was on her side. Nothing was ever fair. Nothing was ever right. So they handled my they weren't supposed to be handling my support case nor my custody case because it's Bucks County. She works for me. It's a conflict of interest, but they did. And the same thing happened with my whole custody thing and child support. And then when it came time for my when they arrested me for trying to talk to my son, which I have the writing for, and I got arrested 2 times for that. Um, they still handled my case when it should have been to a different county. So not one time has Bucks County ever done anything to the letter of the law um, when it comes to them, and especially when it came to me. So there's so much conflict of interest throughout this whole entire thing. It's how do you how am I wrong for trying to making the phone call and that phone call never came through based on their information that I wrote down, never calling back, never investigating. How does that justify a no phone call back, but then dismiss it? How do you dismiss something you don't call investigate? I don't know that. That is what happened with CPS when I called the child abuse hotline because they want us to help. Their channel 99 or Power 99 FM in Philadelphia. I remember hearing that when I was up in Norristown State Hospital being detained on the radio during the day. If you know or suspect child abuse, call the Pennsylvania Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800 blah blah blah. And I hear these paid for by Pennsylvania taxpayers. And I'm like, can I tell you, taxpayers, one thing? When you call, it doesn't mean they're going to do anything. How does that make you feel as an American, as a Pennsylvanian, that you're calling using taxpayers' money to take your call when you believe or suspect or know of child abuse, and then they don't do a thing about it? That's pretty disheartening. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. See, that's the whole thing. Just because they can just sweep everything under the rug this whole time, they thought I was going to go away. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm content. I'm at peace. I love my life. I've had a very successful life. I'm very happy with my life. If I die today, I die happy. And I'm excited about all the things I've been able to accomplish throughout my life. And I've accomplished a lot more than most people can or did. So, all that to say is that I'm going to start talking about the journal. That's how all these videos leading up to this is why I started to journal. Going through the day to day, I should probably go through the spreadsheets first. I can probably do all the side letters and notes that I have too, but that dealt with the therapist that we needed for him and for her, and the doctors that we needed for him and for her, and how a woman that has caused so much um, drama with them and then with all of these other people. How does this woman keep a job with the county? I don't understand. I thought that their job was to go out and investigate people who do things like this. I didn't know the county had a right to say, no, we're not going to investigate this because she works for a judge and that's the final order. So I understand verbal and nonverbal communication very well. So when Bucks County didn't call me back, I wrote. So I didn't kill her, didn't hurt him, didn't touch her, didn't threaten her, never, none of those things. None of those things. So here we go. We'll wrap up the beginning part of talked about her family, talked about her job, her past, her all of her husbands, all of the people who the dog dangers, the other kid dangers. Then the Josh stuff comes up next, and then I'll recap this by saying that everything was copacetic from the time I met her until June 26, 2003. The next the next month, my son hits his head. The month after that, my son almost dies. Then there's issues with every one of those things after that, as a result of those things because they were neglected and lied about. When you catch the amount of energy that I've spent writing down these lies, it was more therapy because I'm not a violent person. I'm a very calm, very. I try to be very collected. I try to think about what I'm saying before I say it. I try to be a good person. I'm a good neighbor. I I have neighbors I was up in Yardley for 14 years. No issues, no complaints. I've have none of my I don't have any police records. I have no record. Um, no, nothing outside of this matter. I've always, like I said, I was a Cub Scout. I was a, yeah, uh, Cub Scout and church goer and leader and um, coach for basketball and homeless people. And so my heart is out there with trying to help people. So I know I was raising two people at that time, and this will deep dive into the mania that goes on inside of her head. um, Unfortunately, I don't think this was after she got her job after 9/11. I remember her saying we had an appointment with the carpet guy that day on 9/11, where I believe that's when she said, "You know what? I think I'm going to go work for Bucks County." And then I agree with her. But when I came home, man, I cried. When I came home and 9/11 happened, and she was meeting with the carpet guy, um, to finish the basement to get that done in November. Uh, we had a 9 o'clock appointment that day. I was going to be half an hour late, and then she was there with the carpet guy, and they came in. I dropped to the floor and put my head on her lap, and thank God she wasn't in Manhattan that day. And then it was shortly after that she got her job in Bucks County, and the world had changed at that day. So this was all about protecting America back then, and then she gets her job there. So I mean, it's just amazing how it's hard to catch a pathological liar, but I've really taken the time to really detail the information. And that's what's to come. So I'm going to close a chapter. I want to close a chapter to what began as a one-liner dated journal notes to keep about what's being said, into let's dive in and get to the nuts and bolts. And then maybe this will hit home with somebody from Bucks County or neighbors, or I don't know. I mean, she's got to know people. Somebody's got to know, something. She doesn't cause this much drama without leaving a paper trail. Well, I've left breadcrumbs, so I've got them all here. So I'm ready to go and to take the next step. And the next step is to deep dive into an area I don't even want to go into. And sometimes it hurts to do what you don't want to do, but I don't want to open that document up whatsoever. That document made it through what, one, two, three, four computers, five computers since I began this. I believe it was who was Ed Rendell was the governor of Pennsylvania back when I began this. Google was just starting; it wasn't a thing yet. Facebook wasn't there yet, um, or is just beginning. 2007, yeah, I think that's when they all kind of started. Was like around 2007 or around that time. But no, we didn't have social media. We didn't. I wasn't able to take a video like this and go post it. It'd be on a little card, and I have to put it into the computer and put the computer and upload it, and then get it onto a America Online. I mean, it was that bad. So I wasn't able to document that stuff back then, but I did at times on my personal Facebook page. I did post some things about it. I did post a lot on my Tumblr account. Um, and then out of advice from my family member, who loves to give great advice, that I should delete it if I want to have anything to do anything with my son in the future, and none of which have turned out. So there was no path ever to go back to my son. It was a one and done, according to her. So I was supposed to just donate my sperm and walk away and never to have spoken to her again. But then she wanted me around just so she can get the money for the child support. So, she had to give them to me sometime. But, when I asked for half the time and you go from half the time to every other weekend, against our agreement and against my will and against your will, then, or, against what we talked about, that's not me, that's her. So she didn't have to hijack him. She didn't have to steal him from me. She didn't have to take me to court for child support. I'm making $100,000 a year. I got the money, and my business is growing. Everything is going well. But then here comes this snap that happens on June 26th, and then the next month and next month, and it just got bad. I mean, I don't have a good feeling about this. I didn't, but it took me 4 years. It took me 4 years to finally say, you know what, this is really crazy. This is really nuts. Like I'm surprised I last 4 years without blowing up. But it took me 4 years to finally catch on. And it took Bucks County. Then that's what I was trying to say before, is Bucks County got the same nice Goliath as I got in the beginning. But then Jekyll and Hyde happened. Okay, now I'm mixing up too many metaphors, but it was more of a Jekyll Hyde thing, and then she's totally different. So totally different. Like, I knew one person, I liked her, that was it. Then this other person stepped on stage. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know nothing. So I'm totally confused about who I dealt with. Is it I know that the woman I've been dealing with is definitely Goliath, definitely Hyde or Jekyll, and then definitely some crazy stuff going on. Which is the other reason why I need to speak this out on video, is because Josh needs to know, for his own mental health, how these things affect his life. Because all these decisions she made all affect his life, and she doesn't think they do, but they do. They really do. They really have consequences. Every step that she took from June 26th forward was a step that she chose on her own, because I was there being a parent and who said, I want half the time. She agreed to half the time, and then she changes her mind, and she changes the whole playbook, and it goes out the window, and everything changes. So it's hard to try and deal with somebody who is so manic, who has changes their whims as so quickly and has so powerfully as she does. The power that she has behind bullying me, behind bullying doctors, behind bullying, it's really a shame. But that's what this book captures, and it was difficult for me to. My energy is better teaching my son than I am a yeller. I was never a yeller. I don't recall yelling at my son. I don't recall beating my son. No, I never beat my son. I didn't hit my son. I did have him in the bathroom when we were out eating one time at Peddler's Village, and I took him in the bathroom and I stood him up against the wall. I said, hey, buddy, we need to calm down a little bit. And that's probably as rough as it got, because I know how to handle kids, because I know how to parent. I never had to really punish him. And you'll see that through the journal too, where she has told me to punish him after the school has punished my son, and summer camp has punished my son, daycare punished my son, first grade punished my son, teachers punished my son, and then she wants to tell me to come when I have him to go punish him more, and I told her no. I said the boy was punished in school. I'm not punishing him because you tell me to punish him. That's not my job. That's He was punished in school. I'm not going to double punish him. I'm not going to be the bad guy for her bad choices. And these choices are bad. They are throughout. They are there. They're like so blatant. It's kind of comical, but at the same time, it's like a manual on how to kill your kid and get away with it, or to, if you know that no one's going to check what you say, then you're free to do what you want. And that's what the power of this was. This was her getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like Goliath, through this whole entire thing. How she got bigger and bolder, and her steps were bolder, canceling Social Security for him so I can take him to summer camps and get him more help for his disability. Canceled wraparound services against the doctor's will. Canceled. Pediatrician says sign him up. She says no. Canceled. Me canceled. My family canceled. His life canceled. Like she really wanted to get me to go after her and seek physical harm on her. She did everything emotionally, physically that she could possibly do to get me to react to her in a physical way that I never did. And this frustrated her for the first 6 years, until she called Bucks County to come help her. Once Bucks County came in to come help her, she got even more bold and more angry, and she would be more ballsy. She would be more brazen. She didn't care. She didn't care one bit about Josh. She only cared about getting to me. But like I said, I'm a good guy. Why would you want to do this against a good guy? What guy is this that she has in her head that she thinks that I am, that I'm not, that people can prove that I'm not, that my neighbors can prove, my friends can prove? I was fighting against a woman who's got a different idea of who I am, but definitely knows who this person is in her head. That is hard to combat. That is some psycho craziness. She had a different agenda. She had a different view of who I am. My close friends, the people I work with, can tell you otherwise. Back then, my coworkers all heard a lot of these stories. My coworkers at Perkins could tell you stories. I've told them stories. They were there. There were people alongside with me as she's throwing this crap, as she's hurting my son. And people are hearing, teachers, co-workers, neighbors, friends. They're all there. Please, Bucks County, go check what I'm saying. They can collaborate my story. And that's what's important here. There is a story. Just because they called back doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm going to obey the law, which I have been. Trust me on that one. So, may the cards fall where they may. Whatever happens after this, listen, I'll say it for the last time. All I try to do is talk to my son. I need him to get an MRI, need him to see a neurologist, make sure there's no brain aneurysms, no more how bad the brain scar tissue is on his brain. Let's make sure he has a healthy brain. Let's make sure his skull is good. Let's make sure that all his wiring, there doesn't show any masses or any tumors or anything like that, because God forbid if there is any of those things that are in his brain and they scan it and there's a problem in there, it's right there. That's where it is. I can't see into his head. I could never see into his head. Now it's impossible for me to see. But based on the evidence at hand, is enough to know that there is scarring on his brain, and it caused other triggers, other electrons and neutrons and memory and electrode going through his brain to change. A change happened to him. So, how much did he get rewired from just the accident? We know he got rewired from Goliath because she has totally um, messed that up, and they weren't friends. And from the 10 years that I've had Josh, his she. I remember the last day I told my sister this last week. I said I remember the last day I was able to see my son legally before she stole him. And I was walking up to the doctor's office. It was a pediatrician's appointment for around 6 o'clock, 5:30, I think, something like that, on a weekday, and it was dark outside. I believe it was September, and I walk up to the pediatrician's office, and it's a glass window, and there's nobody else in there but those two, and they're sitting. It's Josh, then a seat, and then Goliath. And I'm looking inside. I'm like, these two aren't even talking. Like they're not even conversating. There's like no mutual love there. And I remember last time when I went to the ENT doctors and I told her she could meet us there. He's sitting next to me and we're doing his homework. We're talking about cicadas. We're doing this and we're talking and we're doing this. And she walks in the door and I just let them do their thing. She walks right past us. Josh doesn't even say hi. He didn't like her. And I don't talk. I will put this out there too. I never ever ever talk bad in front of him about her ever, ever. You can ask my family; they all know it's this point I stand on. But I watched what they did naturally on their own. She walks in, walks right past us, goes talks to the receptionist, and then comes back and sits somewhere else, away from us, and he doesn't talk to her. So I'm looking. So those are two incidences back to back, not within days, but within months, where they're they don't have a relationship. And I'm thinking to myself, well, when I got the boy, we're all over each other. We're like, well, we talk about everything, and we converse. We have a relation. My son and I have a relationship. They didn't have a relationship, and it was it was tough to see those things happen because I know him as Josh, the lover, the talker, the calmness, the one who can just be himself, just ask questions, just do be his best self, and just love and hold hands or just hug or and that's the way I know him. To see it was like seeing another child, and I didn't recognize him. Like I mean, I recognize him, but I mean, I didn't recognize that kind of the energy, the she's on her phone, he's on his play game. This was when he was like 10, 11. So waiting for the doctor to be seen, and that was their relationship. And I'm like, this is 10 years old and they don't even talk. And I'm like, this is really hard to watch. And come to find out that just by those two interactions, they don't have a relationship. And the only reason why I don't have a relationship with my son today is because the person who's kicked me out 10 times after 25 years or 11 times, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, it's not me. So it's her. So let's go dig into that. Boy, did I make this longer than I wanted to. I I think I want to wrap up the prologue. Isn't that what they call it in the beginning of a book? And then we'll talk about it. Then I guess at some point I got to release my books. I wrote 5 composition books full of notes from my past, and then while I was in jail, so I was able to write 5 books. I read about 15 or 20 books in a year and in a year in jail. I didn't write them all down, but they were really good. Some of them I wrote read twice, like the Indigenous Peoples version of American history. Read that book twice, but my point is, I wrote books while I was incarcerated, um, to give more explanation about how I was able to forensically go through all of these things and keep very accurate reports and notes and things like that. So I'm very proud of my writings. I think it's time that I don't keep them. They're still in my backpack. I haven't even opened them up from jail. Like when you go into jail, well, I went from the hospital for competency for 8 months because my lawyer called me incompetent, legally incompetent. It's not a different. It's not a mental thing. It's a legal incompetence. Um, that was just a little monkey wrench that they had to throw in at me to show me that they are in charge. Um, but when I got back to Bucks County after Norristown, they put it in a sealed backpack, and so it's been sealed. My books have been sealed since 2024, 3. Whenever I got back into to Bucks County, they sealed them, and they're still sealed. So I haven't even opened them yet. So I got to go through those too. So I've got a lot of data, a lot of information to start spilling out there and to start telling the story. So here we go. Let's make this happen. Listen, if your child ever falls down, hits his head, and goes unconscious, call 911. Don't pick him up. Um, don't pick him up. Just call 911. That's the most easiest thing you could ever do. So don't be a hero. I thought I would be a hero if that ever happened to me and the child hits the ground. I'd scoop them up and put them in the car and take them to the hospital. That's the worst. Don't even do that. It's better just to call 911. And it's a lot easier for paperwork too when you just are above board and honest and just tell people, look, accidents happen. That's okay. But when you hide it from everybody, it looks very suspicious. So when you do suspicious things, guess what? Things that you think were going to be hidden are going to come out. That's what it says. Luke 12. It's going to come out. Shouted from the rooftops. What's done in secret will be shouted from the rooftops. It says it in God's word. And this is no different. They thought they could not call me back because my son doesn't deserve to be protected, because he doesn't deserve to be healthy and happy and have a good life. Had they had done that back then and investigated in 2007, had they stuck up for my kid, I'd have been on their side. But they chose to take the other way. They chose to not investigate. They chose these things. I didn't choose that. They did. I called them for help. I pleaded with them for help. I needed their help. Josh needed their help. Josh needed their help. All the doctors, all the school teachers, all the people around Josh all knew Josh needed help. Josh needed help. She needed help. And that need is also in all of the medical documents, which I'd love to read over too, of all the times that they had to sit there and talk to her about teaching her how to be a parent and to do the right thing. One thing that just strikes me as funny just pops up. I'm trying to end this thing and here something else just popped in my head. I remember her trying to tell me, this is when he was like 8 or 9, for me to try to give him more healthy food choices. And I was like, she's trying to email me. I'll have to pull it up. But she's emailing me about trying to give him better choices so he has less sugar, so he doesn't get so hyper. And then I love this because I always cook Josh's breakfasts, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. We didn't go out to eat that much. I'm a cooker. I love to cook. I love fixing him breakfast. Every morning before school, I'd cook him a hot breakfast. Every single morning. Did not matter. I get up for work. I get myself ready. I cook his food, wake him up. We'd sit down. We'd have breakfast together every morning. We had fruit and then eggs. and something good for breakfast. It wasn't cold cereal. It was a hot meal. That was his meal for me every single day I had him. That you went to school for. Never went out to eat. Never went to the drive-through for him for breakfast. Everything was cooked at home. So I'm laughing because I have her in the beginning when he was in daycare and in first grade, or no, kindergarten, before kindergarten. I said, stop giving him chocolate milk and chocolate uh, muffins for breakfast. And her answer was, well, he likes it. And I said, you can't do that to a 2-year-old, 3-year-old. You can't give him that stuff. And I said, stop letting him watch Power Rangers. He's 3 years old. Then she'd call me on the phone and say, he's hitting, kicking, punching people at school. Well, you let him watch Power Rangers. It's geared for 7 and above. I even sent her the paper that says PG 7 and above. He was 3. So she's giving him information. She's giving him bad food. She's giving him bad advice. And she later on, she tells me, I should try to start doing this. Well, woman, I've been doing that the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about trying to school me on something. Now, when I told you years ago, don't do it this way, you said, no, he like it. Kids don't know. They're born without a hard drive. They're totally born with 0 RAM or RAM. There's nothing in their hard drive. They're totally wiped clean. What you put into them is what you get out of them. So I'm trying to teach her making better choices, and her response was, it's easy. He likes it. Well, of course. Who wouldn't want chocolate milk and chocolate muffins? But none of that's protein. So now he's up hyper, and then she goes, oh, by the way, here you go, daycare. Here he is. Good luck. Bye. Yeah, I know you don't like it like that, but guess what? I'm going to do it anyways. That was her mentality. That was the mentality I caught. That was caught every day. Doing what you're not supposed to do is what she did. So that is quintessential to everything throughout this thing. So, long story short, I believe in the beginning, she came in and she was like Helen of Troy or the Trojan horse, where she snuck in there under false pretenses, and then once her guard was down, came up and just started to get people in the county, and she knew that she got them when they started taking her side, but then found out otherwise. So she had gotten them before they got her. So she's got all this stuff on them, but they got all this stuff on her. But then they come to find out that some of this, a lot of stuff she said was wrong. So they had to stick with her. They never changed sides. They never decided to say, Mystery Dell, let's give you your day. Let's have a conversation. As many times I try going to them and saying, listen, we need to have a conversation. I don't like being ignored. I know a lot of people do, but I mean, I don't mind being ignored. What I don't do is back down. So you can ignore me, you can ignore my phone call from 2007, but it's not going to stop me because I'm doing the right thing. And I've been told by Dr. Mark, M-A-R-C, Feldman, the ADHD specialist, who's wrote a lot about not ADHD, FDIA, fictitious disease imposed on other Munchausen by proxy, who wrote about that, who had testified. I need to put his letter up on my YouTube page where he says, Mystery Dell, you have done everything right. Everything you're supposed to do, you did. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't, that's one of the reasons why I retired early, he said, because it's more complicated with the legal system than it was to deal with parents. And I've experienced that. So hearing a doctor in the field of FDIA saying you have done everything that you were supposed to, hearing that coming from the doctor made me feel good because I did everything I was supposed to do. I'm accountable for my own things. I was there. I was a responsible parent. I tried to do my job. I've been kicked out 10, 12 times throughout this, through 25 years. So, anyways, let's move on. Let's move on to the next chapter. hearing Dr. Mark say that was very comforting. The reporters I've reached out to, the medical journalists I've reached out to, some, people have told me, try this, do this, and they all say, sound like you did the right thing. FDIA awareness people, I reached out to them. I reached out to so many different people, neurologists, to psychiatrists, to, I really tried to get a whole picture of my investigation, to be very thorough and be very accurate. Accurate is what I'm looking for. Accuracy means more to me my emotions. I was able to write things and not be emotional about them, and I feel like I'm not going to try and sway an outcome. I didn't. When I speak about truth that can be backed up by facts. So I'm not one to embellish things. I'm a factual kind of person. I believe in the facts and the truth, and that's my cornerstone of my life. Um, Being rooted in truth and honesty, and my relationship with God means more to me than anything else. And it growing through this whole entire experience, I was the guy that had to go through this because I was probably the strongest person around that could ever deal with what they dealt with in this situation, and to come out and still be alive and still tell the story and never back down because I love my son. And when I wrote every letter that I wrote, every character was meant in love for him, not for myself, not for Goliath. This was for him. So I'm going to be writing. I mean, I feel like I should be reading it to him personally, but I'm just going to read what I wrote just to see how it comes out. So that's, like I said, going to be a tough thing to do, but I'm looking forward to starting the next chapter and to see how that plays out. So thanks for watching, and I hope that I can get that started sometime this weekend. Listen, be blessed, be your best self. If you don't know how to be your best self and you see yourself being a better self, go find out how to be a better self. There's therapists and people out there that are willing to help you to live a better life. So find that happiness, find that joy, find that peace, be that good person, be kind, and don't forget to love each other. That's all we have. It's what makes us human.